I call to order this zoning meeting of the Knox County Commission for Monday, September 25th. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Lundy.
Here.
Commissioner Durrett.
Here.
Commissioner Oster.
Here.
Commissioner Ward is out. Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Here.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Beeler.
Here.
Commissioner Daly.
Here.
Commissioner Jay.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
9 right now.
We do have 9 present. We have a quorum. As we begin this meeting, I'm going to turn it over to Director Moyers to instruct those that are going to testify.
All right, if you're here to speak to this commission about any item on the agenda, if you're here to be, you're here as an applicant or you're here to oppose an item on this agenda, please stand and raise your right hand. You intend to speak to this commission tonight, stand and raise your right hand. All right, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give tonight be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the true self? You got it. All right, and please be reminded that the commission has passed an ordinance stating that anyone who lies or misrepresents a matter under oath to commission is guilty of a civil offense and can be fined up to $500.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you read the first agenda item?
It's item number 53, which is 7-G-23-RZ, request of Timothy Neal for rezoning from PR Plan Residential to CA General Business located at 0 Asheville Highway, parcel ID 061-07104, part of, in the 8th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please state your name and
Yeah, Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for Mr. Neal.
thank you. Is there any opposition that wishes to speak? Seeing none, Director Brooks, would you please read the recommendation of planning?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the CA General Business Zone for the portion of the parcel requested because it is consistent with the sector plan and would result in more consistent zoning for the subject property by a vote of 13-0.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission about this item? Mr. Mullins, would you like to speak to the item?
Just briefly, I appreciate staff's recommendation. This is a split zone, part of it's zoned commercial, part of it's zoned PR at 12 units an acre. We're seeking to expand the commercial zoning to the north. It's still a good boundary and buffer from the residential neighbors to the east. This will just allow more intentional development there on the Asheville Highway, and they don't have any specific plans, but this would allow them to address issues with access and stormwater in a more intentional way.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just like to add, I had a good conversation with Mr. Mullins about future potential use, just making sure that any businesses that go into this location will be community friendly, and they will keep that in mind.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights, I'll turn it over to the District Commissioner, Commissioner Beeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the comments, Commissioner Frazier. I, too, appreciate you, Mr. Mullins, being willing to meet with me despite being somewhat indisposed and explaining this one. And I have met with the residents there in Neal's Landing several times about their water issues. I think it's well known that the creek behind some of those residents' house does flood. So I will look to Mr. Snowden and just to ensure that whatever goes on this does not exacerbate that in any way whatsoever. So with that being said, since this is part of this parcel is already CA, my motion is that we approve the rezoning from PR to CA as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Beeler, second by Commissioner Frazier. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Next item.
Number 54 is 8-A-23SP. It's the request of Robert Edward Watson for Northeast County Sector Plan Amendment from AG Agricultural to RR Rural Residential. Properties located at 7519 Washington Pike, parcel ID 031PA001 in the 8th Commission District.
Thank you. Are you the applicant?
Yes, Robert Watson.
Thank you. Would you please give us your name and address?
Robert Edward Watson, 7519 Washington Pike. It's in Corrington, Tennessee, 37721.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Is there any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks, your recommendation?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the sector plan amendment to RR Rural Residential because it is consistent with the development in the area by a vote of 13-0 consent.
Commissioners, do you have any comments on this item? Seeing no lights, Commissioner Beeler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Watson, I'm assuming you just want to build a couple of houses on this, or?
I've got a trailer grandfathered in on one side on my half, and then the other half we should sell to boost my Social Security retirement here.
I see. I understand. And this is a small piece. This is all a residential stretch of Washington Pike. It's single-family homes on 1 to 2 acre lots. There's actually a subdivision across the street. We recently actually changed the sector plan, I believe, for Mr. Chabon, did we not, Mr. Snowden? He's built a couple of really nice houses out there, so I'm okay with this. I'll move that we approve the sector plan amendment from agricultural to rural residential as per the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Beeler, second by Frazier. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number 55, 8-A-23-RZ is also a request of Robert Edward Watson. It's for rezoning from A agricultural to PR plan residential up to 2 dwelling units per acre. And the property description is the same as the previous item.
I need your name and address again for the record, sir.
Okay, Robert Edward Watson, 7519 Washington Pike, Corrington, Tennessee, 37721.
Thank you. Is there any opposition present for this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR plan residential zone up to 1.5 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the surrounding area by a vote of 13-0 consent.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your item, sir?
I was just going to split it in half. It's 0.679 acres on one side, 0.691 on the other.
All right, thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing no lights, Commissioner Beeler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we approve this rezoning from agricultural to planned residential up to 2 dwelling units per acre as per the Planning Commission recommendation.
1 point.
I'm sorry, 1.5. You're right. 1.5 dwelling units per acre. Thank you.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Beeler, second by Schoonmaker. Frazier?
Give it to Commissioner Frazier.
All right, Commissioner Frazier?
She's got a good streak running.
Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Thank you
you.
for coming. Next item.
Item number 56, 8-B-23-RZ, request of Max G. Morton for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential located at 8109 Collier Road, parcel ID 056093 in the 7th Commission District.
Hi, you are the applicant?
No, my name is Josh Morton, representing Max Morton.
Thank you. Your name and your address, please.
Joshua Morton, 161 Country Walk Drive, Powell, Tennessee.
And what was the last name again?
Morton, M-O-R-T-O-N.
Morton. Thank you, Mr. Morton. Is there any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RA low-density residential zone because it's consistent with the sector plan and consistent with the surrounding development by a vote of 13-0 consent.
Thank you. Mr. Morton, do you wish to speak to this project?
If we have any questions, I can answer, but no, ma'am.
All right. Are there any lights, questions, comments? Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you just tell us a little bit about your intentions with the property, please,
Yeah,
sir?
of course. Yeah, this is my father's property. It's a rectangle size, roughly 2 acres. We're hoping to cut it up. One half of it has a house on it that my sister will live in, and we hope to build a couple on the other half for a home for me to get started. You're welcome.
All right. Seeing no other lights, Commissioner Lee?
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would make a motion to approve the low-density residential.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Lee, second by Frazier. Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item number 57, 8-F-23-RZ, request of CMH Homes Incorporated for rezoning from A agricultural to PR Plan residential up to 5 dwelling units per acre. Properties located at 2120 and 2116 Tipton Station Road, parcel ID 148, 10804, and 10806 in the 9th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins, your name and address, please.
Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for the applicant CMH Homes.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Is there any opposition? All right, I see 2 people that wish to speak, and you both have been sworn in, is that correct? All right. The applicant, thank you. The applicant will have 5 minutes to address commission, then the opposition will also have 5 minutes, and the applicant can respond for a few minutes afterwards. Go ahead, Mr. Mullins.
Thank you. This is a rezoning request for what we asked for at the Planning Commission stage, and what the planning staff and Planning Commission recommended was 5 dwelling units an acre. I've spoken with most of you, and I hope most of you caught me when I wasn't on pain medicines when I did speak with you. But we are now asking to reduce our application to 3.7 dwelling units an acre because between the Planning Commission meeting and now we've been able to put together a site plan that is going to be heard pending the results of this rezoning by Planning Commission in October. And so we're looking to reduce our request to 3.7 units an acre. We spent a great deal of time speaking with the neighborhood, both a larger neighborhood meeting in August that I was unable to attend, but representatives of Clayton Homes and Commissioner Daly was able to attend, and the 4 neighbors that are to the south of this property that are most directly affected because they have an easement that runs through this property, and that easement will remain throughout the development of this property. We've been working with them regarding their concerns and how we can protect their easement rights both during construction and after the subdivision has been built out. This is in the planned growth area. It is our next door neighbor to the east is South Doyle High School. Bonnie Cade Elementary is 100 yards or so to the west. It's already, the sector plan is in place for low-density residential, which in the county means anywhere between 1 and 5 dwelling units an acre. 3.7 is right in the middle of that range. And in fact, if you look at the 6 closest planned residential zonings around this property, you're going to see a range of 5 dwelling units an acre. On the other side of South Doyle, a couple are 4 dwelling units an acre across the street, and then a couple that are 3 dwelling units an acre a little further south and a little further west. And you average those together, that's 3.8 dwelling units an acre. So 3.7 is right in line with what's developed there. It's accessed by Tipton Station Road, which is a major collector street. It has 20 feet of pavement and a 40 feet right-of-way. There is a sidewalk that runs on the south side of Tipton Station. It runs just to the property right before Bonnie Cade. I know I had a conversation with Commissioner Frazier about the sidewalk, and it looks like that sidewalk ends right before Bonnie Cade Elementary. We are talking to the school system. We'll have internal sidewalks. We're talking to the school system about locating a sidewalk or a path from our property directly to South Doyle, right next to it as well. The exact location of that, I don't think we've worked out yet. Anywhere in the county during peak hours, school hours, you're going to have bad traffic, and this is no exception. Traffic does back up there during school hours. It backs up, in West Knoxville where I drop my kids off at school. But I did reach out to Commissioner Snowden, or Director Snowden, about the level of service, and it was estimated at 5 units an acre that we'd be putting about 1,000 additional vehicles on the road. And it was Director Snowden's opinion that Tipton Station could manage that additional traffic. Reducing that down to 3.7 is going to be less than that. I don't know what exactly those numbers are. But that's something that the road can manage. And, I think there's some people that are going to speak that would encourage that there may be some infrastructure projects in that area. But when we're looking at the type of density for this project, this is right in line with what the sector plan and the growth policy plan allow. We are going to continue to work with the neighbors with the site plan as it comes through about what to do with the easement. I don't think we've got all the details worked out on that. But, we are trying to be very intentional with our conversations with them and trying to be a really good neighbor. It makes sense. You have a piece of property here. It's kind of an island of agricultural zoning around PR zones right next to a high school. It's going to get developed at some point. And I think, we have a local, company that's been local here for years, that has people invested in the community, and the density makes sense for this location, and we'd ask that you follow Planning Commission's recommendation and vote to approve. Happy to answer any questions. Also have some representatives from Clayton that can answer any questions as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will get your recommendation in a moment, Director Brooks, but I'd like opposition to come forward and speak. If you state your name and address, please, and you have 5 minutes to address the commission.
Patty King, I live on Tipton Station in Knoxville, 37920. You guys have my address on record.
Excuse me one moment. Could we start the clock, please? Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm talking against this development because I live on Tipton Station. I live about 3 miles from where this development is coming in. And the traffic on Tipton Station during school zone time and also during rush hour is horrendous. I can't get out of my driveway half the time because if there's an accident on Chapman Highway right there, they do swing them through Tipton Station to Picking Gap and then back down onto Chapman, okay? School time, when you're going down towards John Sevier off Tipton, you cannot get past Bonnie Kate. They block the road. Bonnie Kate is blocked. You cannot get around school pickup at all. I don't know how many of you commissioners ever drove down Tipton Station during that time, but you can't get through. There's no way. Emergency vehicles would not be able to get through there, okay? I don't want this property because it also is right next to South Doyle. It's going to cause overcrowding to the schools. We have 3 other developments that are still being developed that are feeding into this school. We have 1 high school, 1 middle school in South Knoxville. They are going to overcrowd. I keep hearing, no, they're not, no, they're not. I have friends who has a senior at South Doyle. They say the teacher-to-student ratio is outrageous. Thank you.
I'm Spencer Proctor. I live at 2122 Tipton Station Road. I'm one of the 4 neighbors that lives adjacent to the property being proposed of the change. My specific opposition is more for the density. The initial opposition through Planning Commission was I do oppose the entirety of it. But as Mr. Mullins has said, we've worked together, and I'm okay with their 3.7 designation. I wanted to use just a few minutes, if it's okay with you all, to address my concerns at the outset, where as I studied the 72-page sector plan for South County, I hear a lot both in Planning Commission and in this body. It's referenced regularly, which is great to have the sector plan, and I know that was a voted on document, and I feel that it was voted on as an entirety. But when we look at the sector plan, there's a 5-year and a 15-year plan included, and the amount of things that have not even been touched on those plans is outstanding. The things that have been touched are privatized money. And so we've approved neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood, and we haven't addressed the infrastructure issues with Tipton Station. The LOS of Tipton Station wasn't horrible in 2012 when they addressed it, but for John Sevier, it was already at a D out on a scale down from A to F. It was already at a D on John Sevier, and a John Sevier hasn't been addressed. In that same sector plan, it's called for adjustments, improvements to John Sevier by 2024, and those have not begun. Money hasn't been designated for that, to my knowledge. And so my request in standing here with you is I understand, I should speak only for myself, I understand that growth and expansion is inevitable and necessary, but that growth strategically is the wisest plan forward. And so if we're looking at the community, just to say there's an infrastructure in place because there's sidewalks in a library, I think is missing the point. I do think that there are, as mentioned, the traffic is a problem there. This is between school zones. To exit this neighborhood, you cannot avoid a school zone. It is not possible. There's not a back road, no way out. You're in a school zone. The traffic mentioned by Mr. Mullins is this development, but that doesn't include the 33 homes across the street that are approved, the 176 homes off John Sevier Highway that are directly down the road, and among many, many, many more in this Chapman Highway corridor that have been approved. So the concerns that I feel I do represent a lot of community members, even in the meeting that was mentioned with the community. I'm not sure that anybody at that community meeting was in favor of this development, and the Planning Commission has a comment section that there were 88 comments, 80 of them opposed, 8 of them for. And I'll just speak to my experience with the Planning Commission, that I stood up and spoke and honestly felt relatively dismissed and unheard in that. And I feel like this is a better body to speak to because you are elected officials. So I'm asking that, and happy to clarify any thoughts or questions, but in looking at that sector plan that is referenced regularly as a standard by which we operate on, there's not many things that are being touched outside of privatized money. So we would very much like for you to consider the expansion and improvement of Tipton Station, the expansion improvement of John Sevier Highway, so that things like traffic and school overcrowding are addressed. I know that those things are in the works and years down the road maybe, but we come up against them quickly when houses are being built. So those are the main concerns, and I would, again, part of the issues that I've talked with Commissioner Daley about is that the community is able to participate in a lot of these conversations, but it's difficult to know how and when. And when this sector plan was approved, I was graduating college, not married yet, not with my 3 children, haven't moved onto the property that I now own. That was a long time ago. And so to approve things and stand by them when the community that is now deeply involved was not able to be involved during that time, I feel like there should be quicker updates or honest changes to sector plans when things are not being addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Did you have a brief comment, Mr. Mullins?
Just briefly, I appreciate Mr. Proctor and Ms. Keene's comments, and the schools. Is that something that Ms. Frazier and I Commissioner Frazier and I spoke about as well? And I wasn't able to actually reach out to South Doyle and Bonnie Kate, see what their capacity is. But I do know the planning staff, when they put their reports together, they have a method that's derived from data that I think that they share with the school board about what the student yield would be. And at 5 units an acre, we were looking at 22 students at build-out among 3 different schools is what they had estimated. If that's directly proportional to breaking it down to 3.7, we're looking at 16 to 17 students over three schools, and that's not just, an immediate, dump of 16, 17 students into the school system. That's kind of matriculated over time and doesn't account for people that move through the school system as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I understand the frustration about some of the infrastructure out there. I have to rely upon, my conversations with Mr. Snowden that says that, Tipton Station, the level of service would still be within an acceptable level, average trips per day with this development, even at the 5 units an acre, much less the 3.7 units an acre. So I would be happy to answer any questions, but still appreciate if you would approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Brooks, would you please read the recommendation for this item?
Certainly. Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 5 dwelling units per acre because it's compatible with the surrounding development and supported by a close proximity to community facilities by a vote of 13-0.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights, Commissioner Daly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to thank Spencer. Spencer's been a voice of reasoning. He's done a lot of research. He has met with CMH Homes. He's met with Mr. Mullins. And yes, we do have some problems out there. Yes, we do have Tipton Station Road that is our only east-west road besides Governor John Sevier, correct, Mr. Snowden? And it is on a plan to widen, but once we get to that, who knows when we're going to get to that plan. It will be widened one of these days. I'll soon be 64. I don't know if I'll see it or not. Hopefully I'll see it in the next 30 years. Yes, John Sevier has been spoken about. John Sevier, Jim's lovely wife, Miss Amanda. There's going to be some work done there to improve some intersections. I'm trying to get them T-Dot, not to spend money on the intersections, go ahead and widen from Alcoa Highway to Chapman Highway, and that will reduce 80% of the traffic. 80% of the traffic gets off at Chapman Highway. You don't need to expand John Sevier Highway all the way to Asheville Highway. And so I think they're very receptive about that. But it takes 7 years, if I'm not correct, to start a project after they get their funding going. So yes, John Sevier is going to be 4 lanes, hopefully sooner than later. We talk about overcrowded at the schools. Bonnie Kate, yes, Bonnie Kate is overcrowded. It's on the South Knoxville plan to be expanded. Where we're going to expand it is going to be the question. Do we lose the old facade of the building, or do we take the teacher's parking lot? That's going to be a question, but we will. It's in the plans to expand. New Hopewell Elementary, we're going to get 1,000-student elementary school here. I'm pushing for 2025. I'm asking the mayor to move it up to 2025. It's in the plans, and we do have a lot of growth there. The high school is not overcrowded. High school can handle 400 more students. We're at less than 1,000 in the 900s. Middle school's getting close, but I think we've got room there. If we had to expand the middle school, we can do that. So, yeah, would I like to see things the way they are? Yes, but I've been there 60 years. So I've been there when a lot of people's houses weren't built. My house was the only house on my house, and the other 2 houses were only houses on my road. That's not that way anymore. The sidewalk, we approved tonight on the consent on education calendar for Bonnie Kate. That's been approved, so we'll get on that real quickly. So hopefully by Mr. Snowden, maybe 3 months, you think? we can have that in there in 3 months, so that sidewalk will extend. The missing link is no longer going to be a missing link there for Bonnie Kate. So I'm asking, the concept plan calls for 72, I think, but we're asking 3.7, which is 74. Ben, does that include the farmhouse and the rancher in that 74?
Yeah, the concept plan includes the farmhouse and the rancher. The 3.7 is just, the concept plan could change, or could be we're still working with them about maybe, what to do with the easement, or that can be moved or abandoned at some point. And so that gives us a little bit of leeway one way or the other. But if the concept plan was approved moving forward with what we have, it'd be 70, I think, one total, including the 2 lots. That's.
Mr. Snowden, do you think that a turn lane right in could be put there to help some of the traffic? It will not help the Bonnie Kate traffic. The only way to help the Bonnie Kate traffic is 4-laning. And we're not going to be able to do that anytime soon.
We had asked the applicant, and Ben may know about this, I haven't seen it, to do a traffic impact letter to look at the warrants for those auxiliary turn lanes for the right turn decel and the left turn. And I haven't seen that study yet. It wasn't going to be a full-blown study, but just an analysis of those auxiliary lanes. So I unfortunately don't have that information just yet.
Good. It would benefit the new development there if there was a right-hand turn lane. And I'm sure that you all would not have a problem putting in a right in. We can't have a right out, of course, but we can have a right in. But if it warrants calls, I trust the highway department. They know what they're doing. So that's about all the questions I see some lights on. Before I make a motion, I'll turn it over to the other commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Daly asked some of the questions I was going to ask. Director Snowden, is Tipton Station Road, is it on the road improvement plan? And can you tell me what the timeline is for that, if so, or if not, can it be?
Sure. Yeah, it has shown up on previous plans. It was not identified as part of the advanced Knox process. They looked at kind of a little smaller segment of it. Right now, we've got a count station close by that location, or this location. It shows about 4,000 vehicles per day. With the width that the current roadway has, which probably varies between 10 and 11 foot lanes, so you're probably 20 to 22 feet wide. It would be something that in the absence of crashes, which we don't see also here, that it would be sometime many years down the road. It would probably be in excess of 10 years before we looked at this. I think Commissioner Daly makes a good point. We are working with TDOT, and think the expansion of Johnsonville Highway from Chapman Highway to Alcoa Highway, especially with the completion of Alcoa Highway, would bring a whole lot of value to that corridor.
You did state that you're going to request a traffic impact letter. Can you just kind of briefly discuss what are the types of things that we could possibly require of the applicant to improve Tipton Station Road?
Sure. One of the things that we asked them to do is obviously we want to make sure that their line of sight is appropriate, which we think it probably is, but we want to verify that. And then when we look at it, we certainly want to make sure that their development traffic, both the slowing rights and the stopping lefts, are outside of the through traffic to avoid what these folks are talking about as far as additional delays. So we have asked them to do a traffic analysis of that intersection and then look at our access control policy to see if it complies with the warrants for the right and the left, and if it does, we would require that of them in their concept plan that would be heard by Planning Commission in October.
Thank you, Director Snowden. Mr. Mullins, you plan to cluster most of these homes because of the environmental constraints with that blue line stream, correct?
Well, when you say cluster, I mean, we're making a traditional subdivision. I think the lots vary between like 5 and 10,000 square feet per lot. The existing lots are larger. There's some environmental constraints to the west of the easement where there's some flooding. There's a floodway zone there as well that we'll have to address. But yes, it's going to be trying to avoid the more difficult areas and put the lots where they make the most sense.
And Commissioner Daly, I tried to get him to help us out with sidewalks all the way down Tipton Station, but he didn't go for it.
Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is for Mr. Mullins. Is it my understanding that you've already filed a concept plan with Knox Planning for the October meeting?
That's correct. There's a concept plan that is pending. Staff's recommendation isn't out, and so there's still room to work on that with what the county wants.
And you're identifying on that plan 71 building units plus 2 additional existing structures for a total of 73?
I think it's a total of 71 lots. Is that right? Yes.
Is that including the 2 houses?
That includes the 2 houses. There's a pre-1900 farmhouse and a 1960s rancher on the properties now that are going to remain.
Okay, so if I'm doing my math correctly, that's 3.5 dwelling units an acre, based on your concept plan.
I'll trust your math more than I trust my math.
So I
Mr.
guess
Schoonmaker.
if you've already filed a concept plan, why would you want to ask for a higher density, which would be closer to 76 lots?
I think it'd be 74 lots with 3.7 on it is what I did the math before.
20.67?
20.67. And the reason for that, Commissioner Schoonmaker, is we're still working with the neighbors about potentially whether they would be willing to abandon the easement and use the public roads or relocate that. And that gives us some more room to revise that concept plan. Might give us more room to address the capital improvements needed for some of the improvements that the county may recommend after our traffic impact letter.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other lights, Commissioner Daly?
Thank you. Good question, Commissioner Schoonmaker. There's some more negotiations going on there, so that's why we're asking for the 3.7. And Clayton Homes and Ben, I asked you to work with Spencer, Mr. Proctor, and especially on the concept plan coming up, on the screening, the vegetation, type of screening, make a good screening and everything. And like I say, I wish that, a lot of times they don't get along too well. But Spencer's been awesome. He's been great. He's been the go-between between the neighbors. And Spencer and I have had a lot of texting and calling each other. So I think Spencer's learned a little bit about zoning and sector plans and everything. So I would like to make a motion. Let me get it down here. Approve the PR plan residential zone up to 3.7 dwelling units per acre because it is compatible with the development and supporting close to proximity to the community facilities. 3.7.
Thank you. We have a motion by Daly. Do we have a second? Second by Jay. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 58, 8-I-23-RZ is a request of Stephen Ward for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential located at 4613 and 4609 West Beaver Creek Drive, parcel ID 066-14401 and 14501, part of, in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please come forward, sir, with your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Ward. I'm located at 6667 Maynardville Pike in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Is there any opposition to this? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RA low density residential zone because is it an extension of the zoning from the south and is consistent with the sector plan and surrounding development by a vote of 13-0 consent.
Thank you.
Chairman Hill, if I might, sir, you weren't sworn in before, were you?
No, sir, my
Would you-
apologies.
Would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Do we have any comments or questions? Being, Mr. Ward, that you're in my district, I see that this is just a little over an acre. Could you share with me your plan?
It's actually the homeowner had requested this. The property is currently zoned agricultural, which would require a 1 acre minimum. They're wanting to create a lot in the rear for their daughter, I believe, to construct a house on. And that was the reason for the change to the zoning, was to allow the additional lot. And it is on sanitary sewer at this point, which is with agricultural zoning. That's why you get the 1 acre minimum, is because of the wells and the septic requirement, which is no longer an issue with this property.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion, please, that we approve the RA low-density residential zoning because it is an extension of the zoning from the south and is consistent with the sector plan.
Second.
A motion on the floor by Hill, second by Oster. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 59 is 8-J-23-RZ, request of Samuel Harward for rezoning from RAE exclusive residential to RA low-density residential. Properties located at 8117 River Drive, parcel ID 076JB00201 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. You are the applicant.
Yes, I am. I'm Samuel Harward. I live at 8117 River Drive, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, 37830.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this? Seeing none, Commissioner Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve RA low-density residential zone because of the RA zone is not very different from the RAE zone, and it would fit in with the rest of the neighborhood and surrounding zones with the condition that the only additional use permitted on review is a garage apartment by a vote of 12-0.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to this item, sir?
Sure, I can explain what I'm planning. I have a house on a 3/4 acre lot in the Birchfield subdivision. I'd like to build a garage with an apartment above it, but the subdivision is zoned RAE, which does not allow any second dwelling on a lot. So my request is to change to RA, which would allow use on, or permit on review, use on review. So then my plan, if you approve, would be to go to planning and request that.
Thank you. Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Brooks, can you just explain that? I don't think I've ever seen RAE in 6 years. Can you explain what that is?
We don't have a lot of it in the county, but this zone is exclusively residential. You'll notice in some of the other zones that other types of uses are allowed. For instance, like in the RA zone, you can have churches and schools and gardening and horticulture, public golf courses, et cetera. But in the RAE, it is exclusively residential uses only. Houses, sorry, I'm scrolling back up. Houses, accessory uses, building, no, get that correctly, yeah. Public utilities, it is very limited.
Okay, so accessory buildings with a residence is allowed in RA.
RA and not RAE, correct.
Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can't even talk, Madam Chair. Thank you. Director Brooks, would an additional septic system need to support this? I know because we're going outside of the zoning in this subdivision. If we approve this, I'm concerned about the capacity of the septic system.
I don't believe so. Director Snowden, can you speak to that?
Yes, if approved and approved by Planning Commissioner, Commissioner Frazier, before we would issue a building permit for this, we would require the health department certify that there was adequate supply.
I actually have a permit for a second septic system from the health department. That was some of the pre-work that I did.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm probably one of the few commissioners that knows what an RAE zone is, just because of my previous tenure as a with the Council of West Knox County Homeowners. This zoning designation is very unique in Knox County, and it was originally set up probably 50, 60 years ago for those communities where it would be basically very, very low density residentials. In fact, if you look at the street is only 15 feet wide. So that should tell you right away that this is not a high volume neighborhood. The other thing is, because he's right on the Clinch River, this whole community was designated just that kind of neat area. And the requirements are that you could only have your home and any accessory building cover 30% of the lot, which is amazing. So it was designed to give that open area around the home. And of course, the staff recommended denial of this. And it's probably because they're very familiar with the RAE zoning. I don't think the planning commissioners probably have ever heard of this before, just like Commissioner Jay had said. So I'd be in favor of denying this because you're kind of interrupting what is already designated for that community that has probably been in place for, I'm guessing, probably 50 years.
Seeing no other lights. This is in my district. I'm very familiar with Birchville Heights. I am your commissioner. I went out twice and tried to catch you at home.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. And you'll just have to, I'll have to ask for permission after the fact. I did walk through your carport and
It's fine.
look around. If I may, where is that garage apartment going to be located?
Okay, so the original lot was actually two lots that the previous owner had purchased, and then he combined them. It's, when you look at the house,
Yes.
it's the right-hand side.
That's what I thought.
So it's downhill from the house to the right. Yeah.
Yes, that was kind of what I envisioned when I saw there. To your point, Commissioner Schoonmaker, if you drive out through that area, there are some folks out there that have got some storage buildings that are nearly the size of another apartment. It's kind of a mixture of homes and outbuildings. But I absolutely can envision what it is that you're trying to do, and do not have an issue with what you're trying to do on your property in your subdivision. So I'd like to go ahead and request that we approve the rezoning from RAE to RA, because it is in fact very consistent with what already exists in the area.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Hill, a second by Daly. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you, sir, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Number 60 is 8-K-23-RZ, request of Sarah Miller for rezoning from agricultural to RA low-density residential. The property is located at 1115 Kelly Farm Way, parcel ID 130-16306 in the 6th Commission District.
You are the applicant?
I am the property owner.
All right.
The applicant is my daughter-in-law.
All right. May I have your name and address, please?
My name is Kathy McBride, 1115 Kelly Farm Way, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RA low-density residential zone because it's consistent with the sector plan designation and will allow development compatible with the surrounding land uses and zoning pattern by a vote of 13-0 consent.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your project?
Yes, what I'm looking at doing is dividing my property so that my son can afford to build a home with the price of houses now. So it would just be one additional unit, and we would divide the property in half. So it would be 2 half-acre lots.
All right. The total right now is 1 acre, so it would be
Correct.
divided
Right.
into half acres. All right. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd like to, oh, I'm sorry. Director Schoonmaker?
Question for planning. I'm sorry. In the application that was accepted by Planning Commission, it says that the utilities, both the sewer and water, are provided by the Clinton Utilities Board. Is that correct?
No.
Who are your utilities, ma'am?
LCUB for electric and First Utilities District for water.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sorry about that error.
So is planning still looking it up, or they agree with what the applicant's saying?
I was looking at what was on the application. I would trust the applicant to know what their utility providers are. There might have been just an error on the application itself.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just so that the applicant realizes, this is in the urban growth boundary of the town of Farragut. And so there may be road improvements that may be required of you with this rezoning. So I just want to make you aware of that.
It's a private road, so I'm 1/10 of a mile off of Snyder, so, and there's a home behind me, so there's no roads that would affect
just
that.
That word may, just want to make you aware.
They'd have to take a lot of property first.
Thank you, Commissioner Frazier. Commissioner Schoonmaker? I'm sorry. That's all right, all right. Seeing no other lights, I'd like to go ahead and make the recommendation that we approve this request from agriculture to RA on the property located 1115 Kelly Way. It is consistent with the sector plan designation. Motion by Hill, second by Beeler. Seeing no other lights, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. Next item.
Item number 61, 7-F-23-RZ is a request of Sam Hargrove for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential at 1412 Church Pit Road, parcel ID 105114 in the 3rd Commission District.
Is the applicant present? This was actually deferred last month because of failure of the applicant to show. Commissioner Oster, do you have any information?
I don't have any updates, and I actually wanted to ask Director Brooks, have we heard from him?
We have not, but I know that our staff did follow up with Mr. Hargrove, confirmed that the email was correct, and then sent another letter to them to let them know they needed to be here.
Okay. There again, we're still kind of at a loss, correct, on the number of what he's wanting to do, even.
That is correct, besides what's in because it was passed on consent at Planning Commission.
Okay.
We could make some speculation, but.
Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss here since he's not shown up. He's not had any communication with me or planning staff. So I think this is where I can, I don't really feel like I need to defer it any longer. So I think that I'll probably make a motion to, do I deny? Yeah, I'm going to make a motion to deny, make sure I get it right, the RA zone because the applicant hasn't shown and we have no further information on the property.
Second.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Excuse me, let her have the home run.
We have a motion by Oster, second by Frazier. Commissioner Schoonmaker, your no comments?
No.
All right.
I was just going to reaffirm
what
that,
she'd
yes,
said.
we need to deny this.
All right. Proper motion is on the floor to deny. Seeing no other lights, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have no zoning appeals or amendments to Knox County zoning ordinance. Other business? Commissioner Daly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Remember Thursday, we have a 4 o'clock
Yes, sir.
meeting at the East Tennessee History Center, then TCCA right after that at 6.
Yes.
This Thursday.
Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Yeah, I was just, we beat me to the punch.
Please, commissioners, if I may, be sure that you put any suggestions you might have for legislative changes. And before we adjourn, I just would like to suggest that you always forgive your enemies because nothing annoys them more. And on that, we are adjourned. Motioned, we are adjourned.